Let's get some more now on the situation on the ground in Tonga, and we can speak to Claire Sanford, who's from the charity Save the Children UK. Thanks very much indeed for talking to us today, Claire. It's still, of course, very difficult to get the full picture from Tonga, but what do you think is the scale of what we're looking at here?
It's really hard to determine at the moment the scale of the situation, and hopefully, with the surveillance that's being conducted by both the Australian and the New Zealand government, then hopefully we will get a better understanding either later today or certainly tomorrow as to the impact both on the main island but also of several of the other islands that surround the capital, some of which are incredibly low-lying. So I think there's some significant concerns around that. And I think the other thing that's, as your news article suggested, is that clearly because there's a limited lack of communication coming out of the country because of the damage to the underwater cable, that's obviously creating further issues around us being able to respond quickly since the emergency happened on Saturday.
And what are the particular challenges of trying to bring aid to the area? It is very remote, isn't it?
It's incredibly remote, and I think there's a variety of challenges that we're looking at. Firstly, the extent of the situation, so knowing the scale of the response that's required. Secondly, you're hearing on your report around the New Zealand government sending in ships. There's a variety of ways in which we can respond, usually with air freights into a country. But obviously, with an active volcano, we know that can hamper flight efforts into a country. In addition, much of the runways and the tarmac is covered in a significant amount of volcanic ash, which again requires a significant effort to clear. So I think access into the country and bringing in the resources that are required are probably some of the biggest challenges organisations are going to face.
And as you say, ash on the runway, reports also that falling ash has made drinking water unusable. How serious is that?
It's pretty serious. I responded to a volcanic eruption in Asia about 10 years ago, and one of the significant issues is the amount of ash that falls. It creates contamination to the predominant water source that communities in Tonga will face. They're traditionally boreholes and rainwater catchments in large ceramic containers, and so obviously the ash will create contamination of those water sources. Similarly, in areas that have been significantly impacted by the tsunami, the salt water will have inundated those boreholes. So again, the water source that these communities are relying on are going to be contaminated. I think the other challenge that we face, and what I saw when I responded a few years ago, was the fact that, where you have fish and where fish is a predominant source of food for communities, they become suffocated under the weight of the ash as well in their water sources. So, not only are we looking at water contamination, we're looking at access to safe food is going to be a challenge. Similarly, I think you've got issues in terms of shelter, in terms of how shelter has been impacted by the volcanic eruption and by the tsunami. And these are the immediate life-saving things that communities are going to want in the first few days.
OK, Claire Sanford from Save the Children UK, thanks very much indeed for talking to us today.
Thank you.